welcome to all of you here in the True North studio, and to those of you who will listen over the next few days, you are loved. Today the topic is believing vacation. Now I'm going to show you that getting the law of believing to work for you when you want it to is much like planning out a dream vacation and then enjoying every detail of the trip. Now, did you know that most people put more concentrated effort into planning out a 2-week vacation than they do designing a 30-year career? Now, why do you think you enjoy your escape, your holiday, your retreat more than your 9 to 5? Because you put more thought into it. You put more planning into it. We put more energy into touching the ancient ruins of Italy, riding a native horse across the hills of Mongolia, basking in the warmth of the Caribbean, ascending Everest, taking in the visual awe of the Grand Canyon, experiencing the thrill of space camp, or soon actually riding a rocket into outer space. We do that more than we do our jobs or our relationships. Face it, we put more concentrated effort in planning our vacations than we do our workaday lives, our love lives, or our careers. See, everyone who's ever enjoyed a well-planned vacation will always follow the same 3 basic steps. 1, first they figure out where we want to go. 2, next we detail out our trip. We figure out where we're going to go and how we're going to get there, and we look at our budgets and figure out how we're going to pay for it, figure out what we'll pack and what we won't pack, who is invited and who we won't bring along this time, where we stay and how we're going to have safe and healthy travel situations. We read travel blogs, watch videos, spend hundreds and maybe thousands of hours thinking and living it before we ever depart. Not to mention those million other details that flood into our heads in the middle of the night as the day gets closer and closer and closer and our excitement builds. By the time we go, it's like we've already been there, we've already lived it, we've already felt it. Finally we go, and we enjoy what we put so much thought, time, and planning into. We experience, we live out exactly what we pictured and planned. There are always a few snags that we didn't think through, like electrical plugs in another country, or the exchange rate, or cell service, or water. Is it safe? The locals may not want to speak English, so how are you going to communicate? And how about running out of clean underwear? We don't want to do that. So the same energy, visualization, and pre-living that you put into your dream vacation is necessary for anything and everything that you really want to do, anything that you want to have, or anything that you want to be. For thousands of years, people have tried to capture this believing process into words, systems, books, teachings, and businesses. And the funny thing about it is, we already know how to believe. All of us do. We've mastered the art of believing since we lay in a warm crib and found a way to coax, force mom to come a bit closer and pick us up so we could be fed. We've done it since then. We did this believing thing through eye contact, cute little sounds, loaded diapers, or blood-curdling screams. Hey, whatever works until you get what you want. Now, we're like little mafia babies, Hey, I did what I had to do to get me some pasta, recycled, The end justifies the means. Hey, what are you going to do? I was hungry. That's how little babies are. They're like little mafia people. You see, as we grow up, we complicate the believing process, and then we spiritualize it, which complicates it even more. We call it the secret, the law of attraction, the art of manifesting. It's not really a secret. We just stop doing what we were born to do. But if left unchecked, spiritualizing the secret will connect us with Eve's original mistake. And everyone on earth believes. And the good, the bad, and the ugly, we believe or decide not to believe. Both saints and sinners believe to receive. Babies and businesswomen believe and receive. You were born to believe. And that being said, why are we so good at believing for some things, but we struggle at that one thing? Why? Is it weight? Is it love? Is it money? Is it health? Is it regaining our spirituality? You know, why does it seem so easy for others and so hard for me? What am I doing wrong? Or what's wrong with me? You see, I pray. I have my vision board. I have a long gratitude list. I live to forgive. I'm a good boy, a good girl, a good person. Why am I not physically seeing what I picture in my mind? Why? The answer may surprise you. Getting out of our heads. And the reason that people don't get the results that they dream of is because they're too much in their heads. And all the planning in the world won't build the house. You know, all daydreaming that we do and waking up at night doesn't get you to Italy. It's all part of the believing process, but it's only a part. It's only a part. I'm going to show you 2 records in the Bible where Jesus stunned his disciples with how he believed. We're going to see how the Christ believed. And I'm also going to show you the science behind this type of abundance. So first, the judge and the persistent widow. And in this parable, Jesus told his disciples that when they expect something in prayer, that they should never give up. And they should aggressively pursue the answer until they get it. And it's Luke chapter 18, and we're going to read 2 through 5, and I'm going to read it from the Voice. There was a judge living in a certain city, and he showed no respect for God or humanity. In the same city, there was a widow. And again, she kept coming to him, seeking justice. Clear my name from my adversary's false accusations. Verse 4, he paid no attention to her request for a while, but then he said to himself, I don't care about what God thinks. I don't care what God thinks of me, much less what any mere human thinks. But this widow is driving me crazy. She's never going to quit coming to see me unless I hear her case and provide her legal protection. See, that's how we pray. This is Jesus' example of prayer. That's the simplicity of believing that we've done since the crib. This woman would not give up until she got her answer. She would not quit. Did this guy want to help her? No. He didn't care. But that's the attitude we have to have. It's not that God is like that bad judge. It's just that we have to get it through our own thick heads. That if we keep moving, if we keep pursuing, we will get to where we want to get. Never stop. Don't stop until you get what you want is the key. See, that's how Jesus taught his disciples to go after the answers to their prayers. Like that widow woman and that judge. She was relentless. She wore him down until he did what she wanted him to do. That's the same way you plan your vacation down to the smallest detail. You wear it out. I know people in here that have been planning a vacation for a year, and they think about it. They're already planning next year, and they're going to do the same thing over and over, and they just think about it, and they talk about it until everyone's sick of it except for them. You see? That's okay. You see? That's the same way you plan your vacation down to the smallest detail and how you enjoy that vacation. You've enjoyed it 1,000 times, right? You see, you visualize the visit. That's part of the step. And then you got to go on it. Then you got to do something. You see, she knew what she needed. She knew she needed legal help. She knew who was the one that would help her. And she didn't stop asking, and she didn't stop acting until she got her deliverance. Now, I think of it like this. It's 5% wanting, and plus 95% unending asking with action. and it equals 100% prayers answered. I mean, you have that little vision board, you have these pictures, all this good, this mind stuff, but if you don't do something, if you don't make it happen, it will not happen. You see, put your prayers into action, folks. Put your prayers into action. Next thing, overly persistent asking and action. Overly persistent asking and action. Our second example is when one of Jesus' disciples asked him to teach them to pray like his cousin John the Baptist taught his disciples to pray. He's sort of throwing a challenge down to Jesus. And he saw Jesus over here praying. Now Jesus gets up and he walks over. Now we're going to see what goes on in Jesus' head. This is the mind pictures that he uses. These are the things that he does in his mind and then after the prayer to make things happen. You're going to be inside the head of the Christ here. You see, this is getting inside the head of the Christ when he's praying. Did he get results to his prayer? You think if you imitated a little bit of how he does it, you might get more results to your prayer? I think so. I think so. What you're about to see is a type of living, vivid images that Jesus had reeling through his mind when he was praying. And you're going to see the energy that he put into making sure his prayers were answered. Don't just pray and leave it hanging out there. You got to do something. You do anything you can to make sure that prayer gets answered. I know a lot of people don't like that, but we'll get to something else in a minute here. They think they just give it to God and he does everything. Well, that's not how Jesus is that's not what he just said in that widow woman, right? She had to do something. Now, so at times it is let go and let God. You've done everything you could do. You've gone to the doctor, you've taken your kid to the doctor, your husband, your wife, whatever. You've done everything you could possibly do. Sometimes you just have to let go and let God. But that's not usually how we do it. You see, usually it's let's go and let God. Let's go and let God. Now, Luke chapter 11, we're going to read 1 through 10, and I will read this from the Voice. Another time Jesus was praying. And when he had finished, one of his disciples approached him. And the disciple, "Teacher, would you teach us, your way of prayer? John taught his disciples the way of prayer, and we're hoping you'll do the same for us." And Jesus, well, here's how to pray. Or here's how I do it. Father in heaven, may your name be revered. May your kingdom come. May your will be accomplished on earth as it is in heaven. Give us the food we need for tomorrow and forgive us for all our wrongs, for we forgive those who wrong us. And lead us away from temptation and save us from the evil one. Now allow me to interject here. The disciple sees Jesus over there praying, sitting under a tree or next to a bush or whatever, sitting in a little bit of shade, away from the crowd, and he has no idea what's running through Jesus' mind. He has no idea. He just sees him sitting over there knowing he's praying, and it's probably best to leave him alone. He has no idea that Jesus is so good at getting the results because of this. See, he also knows that Jesus' cousin, John the Baptist, taught his disciples to pray silently and in groups in a different way than they learned in temple. If you've ever been to a temple, they pray a specific way. It's always the same way. And now Jesus and his cousin, they're breaking the mold here. They broke the mold. And Jesus opens the prayer with gratitude and thankfulness to God. And this is one of the biggest keys in all the self-helper books, all the law of attraction folks, all the secret admirers of the secret, gratitude and forgiveness. I mean, they're good. I'm not trying to make them, I mean, they're huge, or Jesus wouldn't be saying it, right? You see, they're in all the books. All of you have heard recently, and you think, I got to start my gratitude journal. Or I gotta go and I need to forgive all these people. I gotta stop holding this stuff in. We all do this stuff. You go to anger management. They're gonna tell you gotta forgive people or whatever, and so, or right the people you wronged. See, Jesus next mentions how prayer is designed to bring the power of God in the heavens down to earth. On earth as it is in heaven. So now he's saying, here's an expectation. The power that you know is in God that created the universe, let's bring it home. This is bringing home. This is bringing into God's power into your reality. That's what Jesus is saying here. Then he teaches them to expect and be thankful for all our physical need being totally met each and every day. Our daily bread. Think back, and probably in their heads they were thinking about the manna that was supplied for 40 years. Every day it appeared. Every day. Except one day a week. And the day before that, they got a double supply. You see? So it was supplied for every day. Your daily bread, God will supply your need each and every day. Whether it's boring or whether it's exciting, He doesn't care. But we need to, and we should pray. So our need is totally met each and every day. Next, he mentions forgiveness, which is heat, big, powerful medicine. For the one doing the forgiving, most of the people you need to forgive, they could care less if you forgive them, right? They don't care. Some people want to be forgiven. Most people, they just don't care because they don't like you anyway, you see. But we walk in forgiveness because it's for us. It gets our mind. It gets the bitterness and the hatred and the anger out. So that we can believe, so we can think bigger. You see, it releases us from the pent-up cancerous anger and bitterness. It gets our mind off of us. Why did he do this to me? Why did she do this to me? On to more important things like God. You see, the next point I'm going to make will make it worth listening to me so far. And if you don't care about anything else I've said, I think you might find this interesting. And it's probably the biggest mistake made by people trying to manifest abundance. And it's where we place ourselves in the believing process is super important. I'm going to say that again. Where we place ourselves in the believing process is ultra important. Most of the books and videos that teach the law of attraction, the science of getting rich, the secret searchers, the thinkers and growers, richers, you see, spiritual healers, or all that or all that say or infer that we, you, or I are co-creators, you're the people I want to talk to. And if you've read any books, if you've read anything, you see, you're going to see this term. It's going to be inferred somehow that you're a co-creator with God. And some go as far as to say you are the creator. Okay? And so just be careful. They still teach the law of believing in these books and in these things, but they leave out one missing thing. And so it's important for us, if we call ourselves believers in God, to actually believe that there is a God and that He is bigger than you. Okay? If you believe you're a co-creator, you may not feel that way in the next few minutes. Now you don't have to study too hard to realize that line of thinking caused the quick fall of Eve and the meteoric rise of the adversary. If you read back in Genesis chapter 3, you're going to be just like God, knowing or causing or breeding good and evil into existence. That's Genesis 3:5. Look up the Old Testament word for to know. To know means to either know, but it also means to propagate, you see, and it means to produce something. So the devil was putting into Eve's head that she could bring to pass things just like God could. So if you think you can do what God can, then do you really need God anymore? And thinking of us, do you need Christ? No. And I listened to some of these people. I watched some videos just to see. And sometimes they would actually pray before a meeting, some of these people. And they look good. And they have thousands of people out there watching. And they're praying. And they have them raise their palms up and breathe in. And then they pray to the universe or to the source. But they never say God. They never say in the name of Jesus Christ. They just leave it out because they teach them that all they are is tapping in and they're becoming co-creators with the Creator. It's a dangerous place, folks. It's a very dangerous place. Now, but don't believe me yet. That was the first line of thinking that caused the first angel of light to get expelled from school. Okay? He said, I will be like the Most High God. I will set my throne above the Creator. I will be the top dog. The top God. Isaiah 14, 13 and 14. That's what the devil thought. He thought he was a creator in equal or better proportion than God. There's people all over the world that think that. And they do it to manifest abundance back to themselves. The principles of believing are in there, folks, but you gotta watch that one thing. It's a one thing that trips up a lot of Christians. It pulls Christians away from Christianity. Because once they start seeing it happen, then they go, I don't need it. There's famous, some of the richest people on earth right now who are TV personalities who believe this stuff, who have taught this. They have said, I'm not going to mention a name, even though it starts with an O, and they have said that they don't believe that Jesus Christ is the only path to salvation. It's because of this teaching, folks. And see, you are not the creator. You are not a creator. You do not co-create with God. I know it's fashionable. I know it's fun to think that you're really that cool. You see, it's popular self-help speak. I don't care what the witch doctors of the internet say. You don't co-create. You don't create. To think you are the creator will hurt you more than it will help you in the long run. You see, you might even tap into a power source other than God. In fact, you will. And so just be careful. There's a lot of power out there. Remember Simon the sorcerer in Samaria around during Jesus' day and during, I know you don't remember them. I was there. But you remember reading about it in Acts. And this guy, he was the townspeople thought he was the power of God. That's why Jesus and the disciples and a lot of Paul's people, they didn't even want to go through Samaria because he had really hoodwinked those people into this same kind of thinking, that they are creators and that he was the top dog, you see. And so, so that was Simon the sorcerer here. See, with gratitude to God, knowing we are forgiven and accepted, we go to God in prayer, fully expecting Him to supply each and every tiny or huge need. We go to God, the original Creator, you see, and know that He promised to supply all our need according to His riches and glory by Christ Jesus. Just read Paul's stuff. He always throws Christ in there. He always throws God in there. And he did some amazing stuff. Jesus did too. Jesus is always saying, I thank thee, Father. I thank thee, Father. I thank thee, Father. Now, did I mention yet that we are not co-creators? You see? But we are conscious expectors, right? We're conscious expectors. Now, let me end my rant. And let's get back to the active mindset to believe and receive. And this mindset of active prayer will blow your non-co-creator minds. This is how vividly we must imagine our prayer scenarios, our believing vacations, so to speak. This is how we make up our prayer movies in our heads. This is step 1, 2, and 3 of the believing process. It's all right here, folks. It's all right in these next few verses. Verse 5. Imagine that one of your friends comes over at midnight. First off, how many of you like people knocking at your door in the middle of the night? Verse 5. And what was that, in Luke 11? Yeah, Luke 11:5. Imagine that one of your friends comes over at midnight. Now remember, this is a prayer scenario here. He's teaching them how to pray like John taught his disciples how to pray. This is how Jesus was praying over there next to that shade under the tree. Okay? This is how vividly he pictures something and reels it like a movie through his mind. Imagine. Now, is there a word there that makes you visualize or something? Imagine that one of your friends comes over at midnight and he bangs on the door. You love it, you know, and he shouts, "Friend, will you lend me 3 loaves of bread? A friend of mine just showed up unexpectedly from a journey and I don't have anything to feed him." Would you shout from your bed, "I'm already in bed, and so are the kids. I already locked the door. I can't be bothered"? Well, you know this as well as I do. Even if you don't, this fellow is your friend, if he keeps knocking long enough, you'll get up and give him whatever he needs simply because of his brash persistence. Brash persistence. King James calls it importunity. It's overly persistent asking. This is the vivid voice and rolling mind picture of prayer. That is the attitude. Whatever you're praying for, it has to be that vivid. Could you picture that in your mind? Somebody knocking on your door, bang, 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 bang. Well, I'll get to this again in a second. So first off, you have to figure out what you need, and then you ask for more. Because he asked for 3 loaves of bread, folks. You know, God is unlimited. People don't need 3 loaves of bread. You see? Now, they were flat loaves, about as thick as your finger, about as big as a small plate. And a child would eat 1. And a woman may eat just 1. A man who works in the fields would probably eat 2. That's along with all the other things they dip it in. Nobody could eat 3. You see, but you'd always give a visitor 3, because you always give people more than they need. So get your vision up. Figure out what you need and ask for more. Don't say I need $10,000. Say I need $100,000. You think God has any trouble between the two? It's not God, it's us. So we've got to find a way to retrain ourselves to expect more. You see, it's interesting to note that the inside friend would not get out of the sack to help his friend for a friend's sake. He did it because of something called brash persistence or importunity. Now, Jesus is saying this is how we go to God. You ever heard anybody pray to God like that? Just demand? You know, Jesus is telling us to be super persistent in asking and in action. It means to be bold, brassy, ballsy, loud, and sassy. This is how we're supposed to pray. This is how Jesus prayed when he was sitting quietly over there underneath the tree. This is what John taught his followers to do when they prayed. Now, if you prayed this way in your church, out loud, they would shut you down. You'll never hear it at a prayer breakfast. You know, you'll never hear it like that. Here we do it again. Friend, outside friend. Bam, bam, bam. Hey, dude, get up. Give me 3 loaves of bread. You know, friend inside. No way, man. Go away. Friend outside. Come on, dude. I'm not leaving till I get what I came all the way from next door to get. You see, friend inside. Shut up. You know, outside friend, not gonna shut up until you get off your lazy rear and give me what I came over here for. Inside friend, geez, oh Pete, all right already. Here's your 3 loaves. Now stop knocking and start walking. Love you, bro, but you are a pain in the you-know-what. Outside friend, thanks, brah. Love you too. Next time, don't take so long to open up the door. And that's how you pray. That's how you pray. That's how you go to God. Okay, I'm not getting answers to my prayer. Come on, God. You know, I'm not getting any answer. What's going on? Really, God already knows what you need, right? So who is really getting the benefit out of the persistent asking like that? Me. Yeah, we do. You see, we go to God because He's our best buddy. That's one thing Jesus is saying here. He's your best friend. He's your next door neighbor. He's that guy who lives in your neighborhood who has all the stuff that we like to borrow. And He's always home. He's always home. He always had what we need when we need it. You know, we may need to get a little pushy at times, but this is really just to animate our own believing. It's to animate our own believing. God needs no motivation. We need to motivate ourselves. Now Jesus drives home this point 2 more times. 2 more times. Watch this. Verse 9. So listen, keep on asking and you will receive. Keep on seeking and you will find. Keep on knocking and the door will be opened. All who keep asking will receive. All who keep seeking will find. All doors will open to those who keep knocking. Now, isn't that a great lesson on how to pray? Isn't that a great lesson on how to pray? Isn't that a great lesson on how to believe? Because prayer and believing are the same thing. It's the same thing, folks. It's exactly the same thing. Most people only need to go to step 1. They just pray. And then they wait. And next day they pray and they wait. And this is taking it through the steps. You know, we keep on building the moving vision of our ask. Keep building a moving vision of your ask. It has to be real. Doesn't Hebrews 11:1 talk about that? Wish I had time to teach that. You see, we keep on seeking with a definite fluid plan. Things are going to change. Obstacles are going to happen. You just keep going, keep going, keep going. Swim upstream, around the rocks. You see, you know, we keep seeking with a definite fluid plan, and then we keep knocking. We keep knocking until the door opens and we get what we came for. Keep knocking until the door opens and you get what you came for. Don't quit before you get what you came for. And that's where most people lose it. You see, it's not God that is holding back. It's just we have our believing needs to be retrained, which I'm going to teach you in just a second. Isn't that exactly how we plan out a vacation and as well as enjoy it? Remember I said you enjoy the vacation many times before you even go. What about that thing that you want, that job, that love, you know, that skinniness, that in shapeness, you know, whatever it is, you know, the relationship, you see? Isn't that how our other countries think about Americans? Now think about it. Bold, brassy, and won't take no for an answer. You know why? You know why Americans act like that? Because Americans are believers. We believe. We want something, we do what? We go get it, right? It's how we're raised. We're raised like that from the crib. See, that's why this is such a successful country. Now, you other people from other countries, I love you to death. You know, I get it. You got great countries too. But this is one thing we're very, very good at. You see, And that's the formula to receive, folks. You ask, you seek. And seek is a Greek word that means zelo. It's seek with passion. And it means plan. Seek also means to plan with passion. In other words, I mean, you're putting energy into that planning. And then when you get to it, close to it, you keep knocking until you get what you want. And you don't take no for an answer. That is believing. Now we ask, we seek, we keep on knocking until our believing is to the point we are ready to receive what God has already supplied. Philippians 4:19. I'll say it again. We ask, seek, and keep knocking until our believing is to the point we are ready to receive what God has already supplied. Philippians 4:19. Now I told you we're going to hit some science on believing. And I'm believing this will help you help yourself believe even bigger. And it's called the Reticular Activation System, RAS. And this is real. This is real. So don't turn off on me. At any one time, we're being bombarded with over 14 million bits of information every second. Right now, while you're listening to me, riding in your car, or sitting in the studio, or wherever you are, there is 14 million bits of information hitting your mind and every second. Even sitting alone in an empty room would overload our brain with data if we didn't have some way to filter out the important from the less important. God designed a filter in the stem of our brain. It's right back here. It's in one of the oldest parts of our brain. And we'll call it the Reticular Activating System, or the RAS is the acronym. And it helps us limit what we notice. You know, and I'll explain this. You and the people closest to you program this filter of yours early in your life, but we're not stuck with that programming. We're not stuck with that setting if we aren't happy with the results of your believing. Now, if you're doing really great in all these areas, and this area you're really not doing so great in, you see, then you need a little help. And I guarantee your RAS has been misprogrammed. And I'm going to show you how to reprogram it. It's so easy. You've done it your whole life. But you'll see. But God designed this into human because you could not handle the information that hits your mind all day long. It'd be like a computer. If it absorbed all the information in an office every day, you'd fill up the hard drive in a few seconds all the time. You couldn't, it just filters in what you program in there, right? Typically. Maybe they're getting smarter now. You see, but the RAS is similar to the smart thermometers in many homes. I just thought about this morning. Now, after a few days of you setting the temperature, up or down, it will eventually automatically adjust the temperature to do just that at that exact time. If you get up every day at 5 and you turn it up, and then at 8 before you go to work, you turn it back down. And when you come home from work, you turn it back up. And then before you go to bed, you turn it back down. In a few days, it's going to do that without you having to set it. That's a smart thermometer. We have one in our house, you see. And, now if you have a few people in the house that are adjusting it, then it sort of messes with things, okay? You have people in your lives, whether you like them or not, that mess with things. It comes in songs that you listen to. It comes in TV that you watch, books that you read, blogs that you peruse. You see, maybe even a friend telling you something you really don't want to hear, or a parent telling you can't when you really want to. You see, I mean, every kid goes through that stuff. You see, so this is that thermometer. Now, our believing is set in similar ways. God gave us this RAS to filter the temperature of our believing. And it filters, it's a filter that sorts out what's important to you. And it's so easy to set, but we get stuck. We get set, and that's why. Here's a few examples. This will make more sense. Have you ever driven down the road and noticed a house or a building you've never seen before, and you wondered why you've never seen it, and you knew it's been there for years? Has it ever happened to you? That's your RAS. It's never thought it was important for you to see that. You see, it makes you always want to look this way, over at this other house, instead of look over here at this. You see, that's your RAS. You see, and have you ever bought a new car thinking you were the only one in town driving this kind of ride, man? It's got the prettiest color, it's got the coolest lines, and then you drive it home, and what do you see? They're everywhere. They're everywhere. Your RAS allows you to start seeing them now because it's important to you. Does that make sense to you? Yeah. Now, you ever learned a new word? It's like, oh man, that's a cool word. I never thought of, that's cool. I'm going to use that someday. And then as you're walking out of whatever store you're in where you heard it, all of a sudden you hear somebody else say it. And then you're on TV, you're watching a movie, they say it. You see, on the news, somebody says that word. You're at school, the teacher says that word, a kid says that word, the janitor says that word. You even thought you heard a baby with a binky hanging out of its mouth mumble it as it was strolled past you. But you didn't notice it until then. That means how many blank spots are we not seeing? What I'm saying, doesn't the word say that God has supplied all our need according to his riches and glory? So if we do not have all our need met, physically, mentally, financially, spiritually, any way, it's because we need to retrain our RAS, retrain the first steps to our believing. We have to be able to notice what God wants us to see. It's all out there. There's people in this room that prosper so well, and they totally expect it. Then there's the times I struggle at a certain area of prosperity or whatever. You fill in the blank, it doesn't matter. You see, but your RAS only allows you to see or hear or notice certain things. It's just the way, it's God did it to protect you so your mind would not blow up. Okay? You'd be born, poof, oh, let's make another baby. 9 months later, boom. It only allows you to handle what you want it to handle. So that's why we elevate our expectation, and you train it to think at a different level, at a higher level. You know how it talks about renewing the mind? I just thought about this. Well, it's the renewed mind. It's a word called anakinosis. It's not really pronounced that way, but it means an up in quality. To renew, it's always up in quality. You always put a better thought. They've been teaching this stuff for thousands of years, folks. It's the same stuff. It's the same stuff. But they didn't know what an RAS was. They never dissected a brain and tried to figure it out. People didn't know this stuff until about 40, 50 years ago. They had no idea until they could put brain monitors on people. And they started figuring this stuff out. We live at a great time to understand who we are. This is a great way to help you remember to be careful what you're saying and what you expect. Because what you expect, you're going to start noticing. You're always thinking about lack, then you're just telling your RAS to picture lack, to show lack to you. You thinking about abundance, and good stuff, then you're just telling your RAS to allow you to see abundance. It's that easy. Your RAS allows you to see, hear, or notice certain things. I think one thing it doesn't do is it doesn't affect smell, or smell doesn't affect it. You see, it goes to a whole other part of the brain. You see, but what you see and what you hear, it really goes through here. There may be more, and I don't know. But this is for your protection. That's why some people just seem to have all the luck and other people seem to get the shaft. We all know somebody who it's so easy for them to make a lot of money. It's just so darn easy. They have no trouble. You know, and then other people, it's like they're just struggling, they're sweating, they're work, because they were taught their whole life, you got to work hard, you got to sweat, you got to gut it out, you got to work long hours, you got to work 16 hours a day, you got to work 7 days a week if you're ever going to even just think about making it. And then there's people who work half-time, part-time, and they're millionaires. Why? They have just figured a way to see it. They've trained themselves to see it. What about health? It works the same way. God promised health, right? I wish above all things that thou prosper and be in health. Those are two things, okay? How many of you like to prosper? Okay, 2 of you. You know, how many of you want to have good health? Okay, all of you. You know, I'm not giving you time, but you get it. I mean, we all want these things. All humans want these things. Okay, if you keep getting your believing thermometer, if you keep setting your believing thermometer with red hot expectations, you're going to begin to notice those red hot things that God has placed near you. You're going to see them more and more and more. If you keep setting it because you're afraid to succeed, which some people are, they're afraid to succeed. You see, or you're worried all the time. Oh God, I don't know if don't know if I'm going to make it. I hope I can pay the bills this month. You see, or you were raised to expect lack. I've heard Christians tell me, I was talking to one guy who's a preacher, and he said, "Oh, you're not one of those prosperity guys, are you?" I thought, I mean, God wants us to prosper, which means, but his church was just a storefront church with curtains hanging down and a lousy paint job. I mean, you could tell they don't believe in anything financially good. That's okay if that's what they want. They might be perfectly happy in there. So who am I to judge? Even though I just did, So if you're raised to expect lack, you're going to get what? Lack. That's the believing temperature you're going to feel. We're designed to believe, and your RAS is designed to alert you to what you have told it you're interested in. If you're interested in lack, it is going to show you lack. It's going to show you lack-mobiles. You can usually tell where your believing's at by hearing the words that come out of your mouth or the things that you pray for all the time. You see, if you're always praying for the same thing and never getting results, I guarantee you have mistrained your brain. Okay? And the course of the world is always struggling to reset your RAS after its ugly self. Your believing expectations. Every book you read adjusts your RAS just slightly. It just moves the needle a little bit, either good or bad. You see, the Word of God is designed in its entirety to set your RAS to its highest level, to peak that meter. You see, your believing temperature, boom! That's how God designed us, to have all abundance in everything, all the time. While in paradise, Adam and Eve lived it so perfectly. Look at the power they had. Until they didn't. You see, Jesus set his RAS meter so that he could see and receive greater than any man ever saw and received. It's the first step to believing, folks, is setting that. Now, enough on the RAS, the reticular activating system. It doesn't do anything other than filter what you train it to see, okay? It doesn't do anything. It's just a filter that you train. It's like it's no more complicated than your smart thermometer. You see, it doesn't, remember, God has already supplied all our need according to his riches and glory by Christ Jesus. We just need to be aware of which way to look. Okay? That's all we have to do. And that starts with the words that you tell yourself. Train your RAS to show you your promised abundance, your health, your paradise, and allow God to amaze you. So this topic of believing in vacation, it should be fun. We trained our RAS our entire lives to allow us to notice what we deem as important. It's a process. Be patient with yourselves. Forgive yourself too, because we all make mistakes. God is always expecting you to pound on his door. He's waiting. So ask, seek, and keep knocking. until that door opens. He's right there. You see, the persistent widow got her deliverance even when everything seemed to be going against her because she was persistent. Everyone who's ever enjoyed a well-planned vacation will always follow the same basic steps. Figure out exactly where you want to go. And then you detail out your trip. Time, place, all these different details. You see, until you actually feel like you've lived it over and over again. So figure out where you want to go, detail out your trip to where you feel like you've already been living it. And then 3, you go and enjoy. Go and enjoy what you put all that time and planning into. And this same thing's said in many ways. Ask, seek, knock, like we said. I always say, see it, plan it, do it. You see? Then ask, believe, receive. A lot of the self-help people said, ask, receive, believe, receive. And then, or another one is order, like you're given an order, expect, and achieve. Another way to look at this, it just came to my mind, if you go into a good restaurant, one that you like, what do? You get the menu, right? You figure out what you want. And when you figure out what you want, don't you put in an order with the server? Now, you're going, God, I hope he comes back. I hope they actually bring me food. You don't ever think that, do you? You're at a really bad restaurant if they're not going to serve you, right? But usually they're going to bring you something. Now, while you're doing that, are you enjoying the smells and the kitchen and the conversation? And I mean, that's how believing's supposed to be. And then pretty soon your meal gets delivered, you see? And then it tastes just like you imagined it to taste. Maybe even better. That's the same process, folks. Order, expect, achieve. Order, expect, achieve. So however you want to see it, it doesn't matter, but picture exactly where you want to go, detail out your journey through life, and go out and enjoy all that God's given. And that's a snapshot of our believing vacation. God bless.